God and Void, Chapter 1, Our Experience with Emptiness. 30 spokes are joined together in a wheel, but it is the center hole that allows the wheel to function. We mold clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that makes the vessel useful. We fashion wood for a house, but it is the emptiness inside that makes it livable. We work with the substantial, but the emptiness is what we use. Tao Te Ching, Spectrum Magazine reference. Exhibit A, the framework model for the creation week. Day 1, God creates light and separates it from darkness, creating day and night. Mapped together with Day 4, God creates the sun, moon, and stars to govern the day and the night. Day 2, God separates the waters, creating the ocean and the sky. Mapped together with Day 5, God creates sea creatures to fill the ocean and birds to fill the sky. Day 3, God creates land and the waters and fills it with the seed-bearing plants and fruit trees. Mapped together with Day 6, God creates land, animals, and man, giving them the plants for food. Day 7, God rests from his own work, mapped together with time. This chapter is strictly about humanity's experience with emptiness. The first experience I will mention may not be yours, but provides an origin that is relatable, even if the context in which I reference this experience from is not something you personally believe in. Humanity's first experience with emptiness within perfection was through Adam. The background leading up to him set the framework for how Adam would discover emptiness. God's work from day 1 to day 5 consisted of organizing sequential spaces, homes, empty spaces of purpose, and filling those empty spaces. This was his common thread, and personally special to me, a clear sign that God is a set theorist, a mathematician, who will leave nothing created for living to be unoccupied. God's desire to acknowledge, create, and fill spaces did not stop at the physical level. He continued deeper into the metacognitive, emotional, relational level. His creative power even touched the employment level, the life balance level. The creation of Adam, the singleton of his own human space, saw the animals, plants, land, bodies of water, constellations, and atmosphere suspended bodies, all serving a purpose. Adam's purpose in their space was to be their superintendent caretaker, Genesis 1:26. This job was given to Adam by God. Together, both nature and humanity were created for God for the purpose of displaying his glory, the many facets of his character, so that he would be known to other spectators. This is not for a self-centered purpose on God's part. These purposes reflects God's utmost concern for his creation living their best lives. When they are turned to him, they produce their greatest yield to the highest quality, pure and without the contamination of greed, manipulation, and selfishness. Adam was created in the image of God. The image of God is love, 1 John 4:8, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Thus, Adam was ultimately created to love. It's that simple. Nevertheless, we cannot skip over the fact that Adam, in perfection, desired purpose, because love provokes purpose. He was a perfect creation, yet he still had desires. He, in love, wanted to be useful. He, in love, wanted to learn. He, in love, wanted to discover. He, in love, wanted to manage, protect, and look after. What human being does not desire purpose deep down? Regardless of their capacity to engage in a purpose, something is awakened in us when we are not only chosen to be responsible for something, but empowered to do so and aware of that empowerment. Any man, woman, or child can relate to this. Thus, God gave Adam the career of calling of service leadership. He had dominion over the garden, kept the garden, and the elements which the garden contained. He was placed, quote, he was placed as God's representative over the lower orders of being. They cannot understand or acknowledge the sovereignty of God, yet they were made capable of loving and serving man. This psalmist says, "Thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet, the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, and whatsoever passeth through the paths of the seas." Psalms 8, 6-8. E. White, page 45. After the creation of Adam, every living creature was brought before him to receive its name. E. White, page 46. Time passes on. Adam is deep in Garden of Eden work. Talk about STEM work. Science on science on science. Adam was grouping animals, plants, fruit, vegetables into families. That's right, the F word, or the concept thereof. Another space of sense is introduced to Adam. He is a witness to these families and remembers that these were created to also bear seeds of their own kind. Again, that space of awareness of families is now a causation effect of just watching nature. Interacting with nature as intimately as he had been triggered a character trait that was already inside of Adam within his own heart. Moreover, the mathematical mind is an identifier of patterns. He saw that every other creation had a mate. He saw other kinds engaging in familial behaviors and being around elements like them. Everywhere he turned were families and seeds of families. Where were elements like himself? It is a valid question. It is not an ungrateful question. It is an inquiry that results from an intellectual mind designed by its creator. He is not sinful or shameful for wondering where his kind is. After all, he was created to love. It is a metacognitive and emotional launch Adam chose courageously to take into the space God created in his heart. This space purposed Adam to love and be loved by another of his kind, because now he desired it for himself. I love this commentary on Adam's experience. After the creation of Adam, every living creature was brought before him to receive his name. He saw that to each had been given a companion, but among them there was not found a helpmeet for him. Among all the creatures that God had made on the earth, there was not one equal to man. And God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him." Adam was not made to dwell in solitude. He was to be a social being. Without companionship, the beautiful scenes and delightful employments of Eden would have failed to yield perfect happiness. Even communion with angels could not have satisfied his desire for sympathy and companionship. There was none of the same nature to love and be loved. God himself gave Adam a companion. He provided an helpmeet for him, a helper corresponding to him, one who was fitted to be his companion and who would be with him in love and sympathy. E. White, Patriarchs and Prophets, Creation, Chapter 2. As a young person, these two spaces of purpose and companionship are the most potentially soul-carving to experience. We all are born with an emotional account. While the baseline might be different from person to person, each person has a plastic capacity. This means that at some point, we will take hold of the choice to increase or decrease that amount in our emotional account. I do have to pause here and say that to increase or decrease this emotional account brings with it other factors that may not always be in our control. Many of these factors involve loss, neglect, and or a violation that we didn't ask for. These factors may play a role in our innate ability to increase or decrease our emotional account. Even as a believer of God, we may all have to rely on God for all emotional experiences. Within that reliance, there are some experiences our personalities feel more comfortable navigating. For example, a virus-induced lockdown is a treasure to an introvert, while a possible prison sentence to an extrovert. Another example is the shepherd boy David, who was fully aware of God's honing of his fighting skills, causing him to state his qualifications, ignore rejection from his own, and run towards his pompous enemy. This is contrary to another timid, plagued shepherd man in Moses, who needed serious convincing of his ability to speak to the heart-hardened Pharaoh of Egypt and face the nation of his estranged Israel. Though there are other factors contributing to the responses of these two men, we see that how they felt about themselves and their experiences touch strands on their personality to either leap forward or struggle with doubt. Some people can travel all over the world alone, be thrown into a social sea of newness and unfamiliarity. They can effortlessly interact with natives and pick up their foreign tongue. That is nothing for them. Then throw them on a stage to speak or perform, and that becomes a definite hard pass. Some embrace the technical challenges and shriek at the emotional challenges. Others shine in the emotional mountains and crumble at the technical battles. Wanting to have a purpose, a vocation, dominion to research, develop, choose, and create are desires we all want on some spectrum, because those strands of growth and productivity were molded into our very DNA at the beginning of humanity's time as an image of God.